Here's what happened. You make a change that helps you and your business grow, but then you feel the dip in the emotions. That change could be a new client, hitting the revenue goal for the month, staying consistent with your systems, or something else. But after that initial burst of excitement that you feel, then the dip can happen for the emotions. This is where you begin to get frustrated for why you aren't feeling more excited. That is where you can even feel more stressed, because you may have been stressed before the change, and then you're thinking this change is going to help me to not feel stressed anymore. But then that stress does come back. And so you could be asking yourself these questions that come up, which is like, why does this happen to me? There could be a pattern that's starting to form for yourself, of like, this happens for me more than once. Then you could be asking, like, what the hell is wrong with me? And you can let go of all those questions, because I think the better question to ask in this situation, and I want to explain more about it later on, is how do I feel less stressed in this natural process? Because it is a natural process that you're experiencing, and it's been happening for over thousands of years. And I want to get into it more for you to help you out. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Rob David Weeks. Thank you for being here. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. And if you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. I really get excited with this commitment that I've made through this show of sharing with you what it really takes to make burnout extinct. I hit my burnout back in 2018 after a social media conference I founded where 500 people came together. And how I define burnout in the context of business, as you're working on your business, is having to close down the business or let go of the business because you don't have the capacity within your body to handle that growth or to handle the challenges that you're experiencing. And so both of those, the result that can come up is chronic stress. And that is the burnout beast's weapon of choice. Body's enemy number one is chronic stress. It's tough sometimes because you can forget easily that you're not in battle with your body, right? You're not. You're in battle with this burnout beast, because one of the most important skills that you can learn as an entrepreneur is mastering the skill of communication with your body, because your body's constantly communicating with you and letting you know through body signals. Specifically, when it comes to stress, you could feel pressure in your body. And so it's registering that signal and then asking yourself what has to happen for the adjustments on a habit level, and then even deeper than that on a belief system level. Because the simplest way I can explain how you make burnout extinct is to feel more energized than drained for the majority of your life. So let's get into it for today. What I want to talk about is the pendulum swing. You think about a swing on a playground. There's motion. We experience motion throughout the universe. And so with the motion moving forward, you're then going to have that swing backwards. And that is the backwards swing is the dip in the emotions that you can experience. And what can happen is you can get stuck on the backwards swing as you're working on your business, where you have these moments of growth and then you can stay stuck, and it can cause a lot of time to go by where you're asking yourself, like, what's wrong with me with this situation right now? What is wrong with me? Why am I feeling this dip? You may even get stressed about the dip. You may be constantly asking why. And the issue is you can waste a lot of time in trying to figure that out, instead of just realizing that this is a natural process that happens in the universe, because there's patterns in the universe. And so you may have heard this saying before, where if your business isn't growing, it's dying. Well, that's a natural process that can be experienced. It's related to entropy. And so I think about my hair, like if it wasn't constantly growing, I wouldn't need a haircut. So you can think about that there are these patterns that are out there in the universe. You think about a relationship. If it's not growing, it can feel like it's dying. Health and fitness. If you're not growing, you can feel like you're going towards feeling unhealthy, sick, and then where's the end destination there for that one? Is death, right? And so there can be a lot of this fear that can come up when you don't understand what's going on. And I fundamentally lived my life as a kid going into my adult life and as an entrepreneur, I lived in a lot of fear of uncertainty, of not knowing what was going on, the patterns that were out there. And so by just understanding that these patterns exist, that can help you to feel less stressed. And then from there, you don't stay stuck. And what can happen is then when you feel less stressed through the process, you then realize that this process is temporary. The dip in the emotions is temporary. And so you'll get back to then continuing to grow in the business and grow for your overall life. And so that's really important to recognize that. So what I want to do is give you that space to think back to what change you made and where you felt the dip in the emotions. So give you that space to reflect on it, because it's important to notice your own patterns. You have these patterns within you. Again, you think about all around you. If you're living by the ocean, you notice with the waves, they come crashing into shore, and then the waves get pulled back out into the ocean. The sun, it rises and the sun sets. You're no different. And so it's noticing these patterns within you so that you don't take them on so personally and feel like they're so overwhelming and like there's something wrong with you, because you have the ability to take control and make these changes and transform. So what I would like for you to do right now is we're going to take a deep inhale through the nose, exhale it out through your mouth, get settled into the space. Okay. So let's do this together. Deep inhale through the nose. And then release out through the mouth. Just like that. Okay. Let's do two more. Let's get two more. Settled in. Deep inhale. And then release. Final one. And then release. Okay. Now let's bring our awareness on down to our toes. We forget about our toes a lot of times. Wiggle them around, right? When was the last time you wiggled your toes? Maybe in the last conversation we had together that you were there if you're coming back. But if not, like wiggle them, notice them, bring your awareness on down to your toes, and then let's bring the awareness on up, okay? So we're going to move on up to the calves, on up to the thighs, stomach, chest. If you'd like, you can raise your arms up, bring your awareness up to the head, and out. Whew. And then like a dating app, just going to swipe left, get rid of it. Whew. All right. I even forgot to mention, if you're moving or you're not at a spot where you're sitting down, laying down, then just bring your awareness on down. You don't have to physically, like I'm doing with my hands, move my hands on up my body, but noticing and bringing your awareness there. You can imagine it's like a body scan is what you're going through. So now that we've gotten that energy on out, what I'd like for you to be able to do right now is take just a few moments to reflect back on the change that happened, where you noticed it helped you for your business to grow. It helped for you to feel like you were growing. But then what happened is you felt that dip in the emotions. And then you may have been even asking yourself those questions that we talked about of like, what the hell is going on here? What's wrong with me? Why is this happening to me? And you could get frustrated by that. And uncertainty, not knowing, the unknown for the nervous system for you, the nervous system can take that as a perceived threat. And so that is where you can create the stress response can happen for the body, where then you feel stressed. And as you can imagine, or how you can think about it and feel into it, is like a pressure balloon filling up in the body of stress. And so the body signal is pressure. And it's important to register where in your body you notice that pressure. Because when you can come back to noticing that body signal, that is where you can realize what the hell is going on. Well, I'm feeling stressed. Okay, well then now what's the adjustment I can make on a habit level, and then even deeper than that on a belief system level. And we'll get started on that process so you can experience that. But noticing where that is, okay? So giving yourself this moment to take a deep inhale through the nose, exhale out through your mouth, bring your awareness on back down your toes. And as you go back to that change that you've experienced, where you notice that dip, bring your awareness on up your body, starting from the toes to the calves, and noticing where pressure can be experienced in the body. Bringing on up to the thighs, to the stomach. That's where I notice a lot of my pressure is in the stomach, specifically on the left side. Chest. Bring on up to the head. And the arms. You can raise them up if you like, if you can. You may get a yawn in there. And then, like a dating app, swipe left, just get rid of it. And again, what we're going through is a body scan, connecting to the body, to the different parts of the body. And so, where did you notice pressure, if any? You may have to do this a few times to get back into it, because we can move through life and we have so many different challenges that we're dealing with, especially comes with the territory as an entrepreneur. And so even having these moments to come back to your body and realize that your body's constantly communicating to you is so important to help you to navigate not only this dip, but then navigating as you're continuing to work on this business and move towards ultimately the quality of life that you want this business to be able to support for you, because business is just one part of your life. But where was that in the body that you noticed? And then if you have it, writing it on down is helpful. And then let's celebrate together. So it's remembering this moment that something you wanted to have happen happened. And so it's really important to reinforce that in the body physically with the celebration. How I do it is I tap both my shoulders, raise my arms up, and I go, yeah, like, let's go. Didn't start that way. So it's okay if you're not feeling comfortable doing that right now or it feels weird. I get it. How I started was more of like a woo. But what this does is it reinforces for the body that this is something I want, because it's something new. If I haven't experienced this before, of noticing where the pressure is in my body, and that could be your situation right now, that is new. And so that can become, that unknown can, for the nervous system, can take it, your nervous system can take it as a perceived threat. And so by celebrating, it's a reminder for your body as you feel more energized that this is what you want. And it can be a way for the body to then release dopamine and the internal reward to then reinforce it that this is what you want. So for you, give yourself that space to celebrate. It's so funny to me sometimes how much resistance comes up with celebrating. And the reason why it could be is because how many times have you actually celebrated? Right? How many times have you celebrated? Have you been judged for celebrating? Have people try to put you down because you've celebrated? What have been the beliefs that you connect to with celebrating? Because beliefs, we're going to get into it a little bit later, are connected to this situation right here, where you could be feeling more stressed in the dip of the emotions. And so bringing now back the awareness to what change happened. It's asking yourself, what is the belief that was causing me to feel the stress, feel stressed in the depth of emotions? Right? What could be the beliefs that I'm telling myself? Or these fears is how you can also think about it. Is it the fear that I'm going to stay stuck like this? Like I can't actually grow and sustain change and create lasting change? Is that the belief that's causing me to feel stress in that dip? Could it be the fear that people in my corner right now, if I continue to grow, become more successful in the business, are they actually going to have my back? Because I've seen so many stories out there of people taking advantage of others, or realizing that when people got more successful, they realized who their true friends were. And a lot of their friends, they ended up not becoming friends with them anymore. So then is that the belief that's stuck in there? But what is it for you? And giving yourself this space to recognize it. Because I could give you all the different tips and strategies and all these different things. But the issue is if your belief is disempowering and causing you to stay stuck, meaning that it doesn't really support your growth moving forward, and instead can feel like this weight that you're having to carry, and it's like the weight of weight of the world on your shoulders, then no amount of strategy is going to help you to move forward. the beliefs is where a lot of energy and time needs to be placed for your life. And we get that all mixed up with all these little quick tips and strategies that you can see online. Let me try this. But then you maybe even noticed it with all those different tips and tricks. Like I think about even working out. The issue is you could go through this pattern for yourself of, okay, I work out for a few weeks, I get motivated, and then I fall off for the next few months or a few weeks. Then I get back on and get back off, get back on, get back off. And that constant pattern. And it comes back to the beliefs. Because if I can say, hey, I am someone that works out consistently, I'm an elite athlete, well, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do those workouts. And when I experience the resistance that can come up, I'm going to make adjustments. Maybe I'm getting bored right now with the exercises. So I'm going to add variety to mix it up and get more excited to go and work out again. I'll figure out a way. And that's what's really important, is figuring out your right way to be able to feel less stressed in this natural process. And so now you may have had that belief. Having that belief, another moment to celebrate, right? Tap of the shoulders, raise arms up. Yeah, let's go. Pumped up for you. And it's remembering that the small wins, they lead to the big wins. This is a powerful habit to implement in your life, because that can help you to then move forward towards not only feeling less stressed, but then to move towards more of what you want. So now that you've had that belief you've identified, how you can imagine it is like a swing on the playground where you've got a broken swing that you're trying to swing from, right? You have this belief that is currently disempowering for you and isn't supportive right now. And that belief is causing you to move forward with some slight momentum, but then you swing on back. And then what happens is you try to push on forward again. You're like angry. You're like, I don't want it to stay, I don't want to be in that dip. So you have that, you feel more stressed, get angry, try to push forward. But then after a while, it gets exhausting. And then you can get to that point where you're like, I'm not even going to try anymore. And that comes back to then getting out of the game. I think of that for business. You might be feeling that. You might be not feeling as inspired for your business. And I don't want you to feel like you have to be forced out of the game, but that you get to choose how you move forward. And so now that you recognize that there's just this one belief here, and again, it served you in the past, it's there for a reason, right? Something came up for why that belief was there. May have protected you and wanted to keep you safe, going back to the nervous system. And one of the primary jobs is to keep you safe. And so by staying at a certain level in life, not only is that familiar, but it can feel safe. But then you miss that other part of you that's like, no, I want to grow. I want to move to new levels in these different areas, specifically relating to the business. And so there's confusion. And again, with confusion creates uncertainty. And then uncertainty is such a really difficult place to be, to feel like you're making any progress. And so now it's important to bring in a new belief. And you get to choose. That's what's so cool about this. You have the ability to take control here and tap into that courage within you and take out the shoulds from everyone else around you in your life, because we can get shoulded on all day long, especially as you're working on your business, and then figure out what is your way. And I can relate to that. Most of my life, I felt like I had to wear the mask and had to figure out how I should show up for all the other people, and you may relate to that. But there comes that time where you're like, I can tap into the courage and I can do this for myself. And it's going to feel weird. It's not going to feel super comfortable, but it's another moment to move into that growth. And notice, again, with any habit, you have this phase where you're going to experience some resistance that comes up. And you could be experiencing that right now. I want to tell you, it's natural. So take the shoulds off, have a moment to reconnect for yourself right now with another deep inhale through the nose, exhale out through your mouth, and ask yourself, what is the empowering belief that you can focus on that can help you to feel less stressed in the natural process of experiencing the dip? And again, empowering belief could be, I will find a way. If I'm struggling in a certain area and I'm like, there's just, I just want to, there's no way I can actually move forward here. Well, maybe the new belief is it's possible for me to find a way. As simple as that. And what happens is then that adds like a new chain onto the swing. And so you think about it. Now you have these two on either side of you. You have a chain that you can hold on to for your hands. And now you feel more stable with the swinging forward for that momentum. And then you remember that there's a natural process here of a swinging backwards. And so how you can continue to move forward and move backwards is asking yourself, what is the habit that you do when you hit the dip of the emotions? And how I relate to this is that my mind will pinball all over the place when I experience growth. That is sometimes, depending on the level of growth, if it's a really big growth moment for me, my mind can pinball really fast. And so how I am able to move through that dip beforehand without realizing it was I would declutter. I clean. I would get rid of things. So that can be helpful and not so helpful. So one could be spending money. So that could be a way to get rid of it, which isn't helpful for keeping the business, helping the business to grow if it's money I'm spending in the business. Or it could be cleaning the dishes, cleaning the kitchen, or cleaning out my files or notes. There are different ways that I could be doing that. But I didn't even know I was doing that until I brought my awareness into that habit. And then from there, I was able to realize what is the form of this habit that would help to support the empowering belief. How can I adjust that habit so that it's supporting me? And as I put in more reps, it's then helping me to become familiar with this new belief. Because once your body then becomes familiar with the new belief, what can happen is then you feel safe in that new belief. And so then you can feel less stressed, but then it creates, how you imagine it, this new baseline. It's this swing where you're swinging back, forwards and backwards. And after a number of reps, and it's different for everyone, you can get to the point where you can jump off that swing because now you have the new belief that's in the driver's seat of that particular area. And then from there, you get to decide and look forward, and you realize that there's another broken swing where it's just one belief for a swing. And that's where you could either upgrade the belief to the next level or focus on a different area for a change that's happening in the business. But what you got to remember is this is an ongoing process. It will never stop. It goes back to, again, with the universe, things are in motion. You will constantly have this broken swing in front of you. It's just you get to decide what you do with that. And it's remembering that you have the ability here to make the changes. It does take time and it does take the repetitions. And that's where, with all the other conversations I've shared before, you can figure out these different strategies to become, to stay inspired working on the business, to make the adjustments to your habits, to figure out which habits to adjust. But what's really important is to come back to this broken swing model, that you have these beliefs that you have the ability to make the changes to, for which one's going to be in the driver's seat of the belief, or the driver's seat of your life. Because as you put in more repetitions that become familiar with the new belief, then the old belief, you're able to you can imagine it becomes a memory. And these old beliefs can be these big pressure balloons in the body, where once you're able to pop that pressure balloon and release that stress out by getting it out of the driver's seat, that opens up so much more space within the body and capacity to handle the growth and to be able to make a lasting change. And that's such a beautiful gift that you can give to yourself. So don't forget, when you notice the dip, asking yourself, what is the belief that is causing me to feel more stress here? Is it empowering for me right now, or is it disempowering for me? And then what can be the new empowering belief? And then specifically, what is the habit that I notice that I do when I have the dip in the emotions? When I feel that growth that's happening, what habit how do I respond that leads me into then the dip of the emotions? And then determine if you got to make those adjustments on a habit level. And what I want to remind you is that you are capable of listening to these body signals, to making the adjustments on a habit level and on a deeper level on the belief system level. And if you haven't heard it yet, I believe in you. You can make burnout extinct. And it's recognizing that this isn't an overnight process and this is just one part of that process. But it's remembering that you have the ability to take control here for not only the business, but for your life. You got this.